Hello and welcome to another bite-sized edition brought to you by the Sussex Collaborative. I'm Joe Lynch. I'm delighted to be joined today by Richard Betts, the founder and owner of Trigpoint Consulting, who is one of the newest collaborators to join the Sussex Collaborative. Hello, Richard, and welcome.
Hi, Joe. Thank you. And may I say what a great privilege it is to be part of the collaborative, bringing together such a wide range of expertise across Sussex to help businesses. So, yeah, thank you.
Great. We're delighted you've joined us. So do you want to just give us a brief outline of who you are and what sort of services you provide?
Yeah, absolutely. So, my name's Richard Betts. I've been working in the business and IT arena really since graduating with a business degree some 25 years ago. And through that time, I've had the privilege to work across a few organizations in the software and telecoms arena, which really positions excellent foundations for me to where I'm at today. And a lot of that time has been spent looking at organizations, looking at their process flows, looking at how they engage their customers and their staff, and then matching technology to meet those needs. And it's been an exciting journey as technology has really ramped up and accelerated incredibly quickly, way back from the time of the old VT510 terminals
Wow.
and Unix systems, right through to cloud tech to where we are now, and the view of the mobile phone and where that sits in the place. So yeah, it's been a great time to be on the journey, and really where we're at now is we're very much aligned to sit between the board and the IT arena, where our primary focus is really helping organizations align their people, their process, and their technology to ultimately give a much better customer experience and customer engagement. And really, I think if I could summarize what Trigpoint does is managing that equilibrium the whole time. And at the moment, it's been truly tested, which is where we're really lucky to have been appointed by a number of organizations to help through that. So that's really what we do: align people, process, technology to maximize that customer experience.
That's brilliant. Thank you. And it's great that you put people before the technology. I suppose over the last 25 years, technology never stands still, but the changes you must have seen, well, over 25 years, but most strikingly over the last 18 months, 2 years, must have been phenomenal. What's been the biggest change you've seen or that customers are asking you to help with?
Yeah, and that's a really great question. I think where it stands at the moment is if you sort of rewind back to where we were sort of going to March 2019, so sorry, 2020 at the start of COVID, is that we were very much a traditional workplace was based that we would travel to our place of work. We would engage with our IT infrastructure at that place of work. We had a very small percentage of people that were truly agile. So they were typically your road warrior folk who would have a laptop and phone, possibly Salesforce, maybe some of the exec team. But the majority of the workforce was typically tethered to the desk or tethered to their laptop, but within the confines of the office. And I think really what happened is there was a complete radical shift where everyone was thrust into not the road warrior model because we were locked down at home, but almost a home worker setup that was excellently done by IT teams across the planet, really. But essentially, we saw this forced rapid shift from homework from in the office to a form of home working. And I think where that sits at the time that was dealt with, and clients had a degree of patience while that went on. I think where we're at now is we're now moving to this place where people are coming back to work, and the challenge they've got is essentially they've got old systems still in the office, could be the old telephone system. And the view is you've got the old world and the new world meeting sometimes head on, where you could have a user sitting at a desk where they're using Teams or Zoom or some cloud-based platform on their laptop, completely consuming their services, but they still have an old handset sitting on their desk, and maybe the old world in that case. And where I see that sort of moving forward now, where we're helping organizations is really to join those two worlds together. So i.e. the home world and the office world, bring those two places together, but do it in a way that actually organizations and their staff are truly agile. So we talk about the people, process, and technology. We're helping organizations now ensure that really wherever people consume that technology, that old Martini advert of any time, any place, anywhere, we're able to support that, and the organizations to support that. And I think the fuel crisis, whilst that presents a number of challenges at the moment, and as we're moving through that, again, it's a prime example where organizations can learn from what they did and how they responded to COVID and how they're moving into this hybrid world now, where when there are crises coming up, where there are things that stop people moving around so freely, organizations shouldn't be able to it shouldn't make any difference to how they engage with their customers and they engage with their staff, and ultimately perform their role. So, to sort of rewind back to that question, really the shift we've seen has gone very much from office-based to complete home-based to now this flexible world that is completely pliable. And as an organization, it doesn't matter really where people are consuming their technology services. And yes, as touched on by Ali and Lucy from the collaborative and the HR and the legal side of things, of course, that's got to be in place. But from a technology delivery side of things, it shouldn't make a difference to us from an IT function where people consume from, as long as it's compliant, it's secure, it's consistent, and importantly, it's available all the time. And that is the key points we're sort of helping people with.
Yeah, I was going to say, so to create this vision of hybrid working where it doesn't matter whether you're at home or in the office, whether you're working remotely, what's the biggest challenge that you're helping people or your customers get over? Is it technology, or is it confidence, or is it just habit? What's the hardest thing about creating a hybrid workforce?
Yeah, I think where we're seeing some of the challenges coming in is around that user experience. So when people were at home, it was really interesting. If you think about a technology deployment project pre-COVID, essentially there'd been lots of training, lots of support, lots of hand-holding, physically attend training, there'd been floor walkers, it would have been very controlled. When we did the thrust to get everyone at home, there was none of that. It was dealt with video sessions, it was dealt with Zoom, it was dealt with self-service training. So you go away, you watch something, and you came back. And I think that was testament to the cloud platforms that are available. Actually, people can easily interface with them. The user experience is really, really simple, almost the consumerization perspective of corporate technologies. Where that is interesting now is when you have people coming back to the office, the mindset is still that there's a view of training. There's still the view that how do we manage that? Because when we're in the office, this is how we used to do that. So we're working a lot with organizations around their change management programs, around how they're supporting staff with that change. To actually, it really doesn't make a difference to where you are there. You can still consistently consume that technology. And I think a great pinch point with it is actually, if you look at meeting rooms, with how technology works in meeting rooms and how you've got this experience where traditionally it may have been quite touch heavy. So you'd have been using a video, you would have been, there would have been shared services within that. Where that's moving to now is organizations, users can walk into a meeting room, the technology can recognize that users in the meeting room, they can connect into that meeting room technology without touching an awful lot of kit, which is great from the COVID side. And they're able to perform that meeting exactly as they were at home, but they may be in a boardroom video conferencing service. And that change with the way it works is a lot more intense. So I think where we're seeing it is that change management is important to help people realize that they can confidently consume that technology, and it really doesn't make a difference, and they're still compliant, and it's still going to be available whenever they want.
So a really interesting perspective, because when we suddenly and quickly left the offices to work at home, we kind of knew we had to make the move, and it was the move that we've been perhaps talking about for years, but suddenly it became urgent. But actually the move back, the hybrid approach, where you want the best of both worlds, is perhaps harder because it's less urgent than the move away from the office.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, it's a prime example of a disruptive force in the market, and COVID was it. If you think how long, take the communication sector, how long have the likes of Poly and Zoom been talking about, using that technology and video conferencing is a prime example. And then overnight, we're teaching students it, we're all on Zoom. Zoom has entered in the Oxford Dictionary. We're running court trials with it. Our adoption of video was rapid. And for years, vendors have been communicating the benefits, reducing travel, all these other points about video, but their disruptive force came in and straight away, click, people have adopted that technology. And I think as we're moving back to the office and we're entering in this hybrid space, the view is the technology is still there. Nothing's radically changed. What you may find, actually, you've lost the handset from your desk, but you can still communicate. Your old phone number still rings you. You can still access your CRM systems. You can still access the different bits of tech that you could from home. In fact, it's probably all been driven, conceptually around a mobile first technology, where we're seeing some clients actually look and say, well, why am I not using my mobile for even more than traditionally I would? So it's an interesting time.
Yeah, and how do you help customers ensure that the customer experience is either enhanced or certainly not deteriorated by having a hybrid or a change of platform? Because obviously, looking after the staff of an organization is really important, but making sure that the customer's experience only gets better is even more important. How are you helping clients with that?
Yeah, and that I think is a really valid point. Ultimately, if you think about an organization, we set our processes are aligned to the best way that we believe we can serve our client and deliver that profit at the end of that reporting period, and we get the best people to support that, and we have the tech for that. Now, ultimately, that's all driven around the equation of great people, process, technology, but it's got to serve that customer experience. And I think if you look back to where we were pre-COVID, there was talk about omni-channel and different ways that we could service through using social and video and bringing those different things into contact centers and expert workers. COVID, the customer then had a degree of tolerance. Everyone was in the same boat. So actually, if you couldn't quite communicate on your old channel, it didn't cause too much of an issue, as long as you could get hold of somebody by some means. As we're coming out of hybrid working, the view is that the marketplace is more competitive, and that customer experience is fundamentally critical now. We've got a lot of challenges globally around businesses, and businesses are still making good of the losses that they incurred during, and the pain during COVID. So it is absolutely critical now, in our view, and we're helping organizations actually understand, how do customers want to engage with that organization? Which technology do they want to use? Which channels of choice do they want to communicate? What I mean by that is actually, I want to communicate with you on video. I want to communicate with you on email. Actually, I'm quite happy having a conversation, or actually self-serving. I don't need to speak to you to do some simple inquiries to check up different services. And really what we're trying to do is actually look at how a client engages with an organization. What's the preferred channel of choice? And as the business, have we aligned our people, process, and technology to actually support that client in the right way, in the way they want to communicate, and doing it in a measured, consistent way where it's personalized? And we look very closely around staff training. We look around the reporting. We look at CSAT scoring. We look at net promoter scores. We look at how that customer, we interview customers to assess, what would you want to do? How are your competitors servicing that client base? And then look at the tech and how we try and align that technology to ensure ultimately we've got that customer speaking to the right person across the right technology channel in a way that the processes aren't slowing the business and that customer experience. And it is a challenge, but I think a lot of organizations, the opportunity they have now is by embracing that customer experience and truly looking at the engagement. I think that is where we're going to see organizations start to actually fast track and gain share.
I agree. I'm working with a lot of clients, and the challenge we're trying to address, certainly from a sales and marketing point of view, is the customer will choose the channel that they want to communicate with the organization and expect you to be able to react and put together the different communications through the different channels. So I might be on the phone in the morning, email in the afternoon, and then using social media in the evening, but the customer expects that all to be connected together to get a seamless experience.
Absolutely. And as someone taking that inquiry, I want to know and see all those conversations across channel. I want it joined up and I want it served up in a really easy way. I can pick that inquiry up. It doesn't matter if I'm from elsewhere across the world on a follow the sun policy. I'm still able to service that customer, and importantly, it's a personalized experience. So we're working very closely with marketing teams, operation teams to help try and bridge that technology gap and keep it agile, because things will change, because as much change has happened internally, and hybrid working is very much inward looking strategy, is actually we've got our customers having the same inward looking strategy and same restrictions and same frustrations. So now is the time of trying to bring almost two hybrid working strategies together and align them together. And that's really where we come in, sort of looking at it impartially and agnostically. We just ask the questions and put ourselves in a client's position. And I think organizations are starting to do that, linking in with the work that you're doing around the marketing and sales strategies. It starts to really join things up and give people that difference.
And do you have to convince customers to make this investment? Do they see it as a cost burden that they have to shoulder, or is it an opportunity to actually reduce costs from an organization?
I think it's interesting, depending on where, the easiest one is this a cost neutral project, that going to, let's talk about hybrid working. Well, in some cases it may well be. You may have a legacy old platform sat there for the last 18 months, not doing an awful lot, because they've been phone systems forwarded to a mobile phone, and it's been a pretty passive service, but you're still paying for the upkeep and the support and everything else of that. So yeah, there are some hard services there, because let's say you've deployed Teams and you've got another phone system in the office. Well, it's a pretty straightforward process of remove the old system and move everyone to Teams, if that's right. So yes, there are some savings there. I think where it goes to another level, and it's not necessarily a case of headcount reduction or reducing of the estate. I think the view is, if you've got assets to run, you've got costs to run the business, and that could be in building assets, it could be in real estate. You've got actually the chance you've got with starting to look at hybrid strategy and technology is actually you deploy your people where you need them. So if you want the flexibility of a flagship office in London, for argument's sake, but you choose to maybe have satellite offices, or you want to push people more into the field, this strategy starts to give you that. It starts to give you options. And I think by using the right technology, the return on investment can be achieved in many different ways. It gives you've got flexibility as a business to decide what you want to do. So if you want to suddenly go from being traditional centralized model with the head office in London to a very distributed model, it doesn't make a difference. If you decide that you want to have start acquiring firms on a mergers and acquisition strategy, you've got the flexibility with the cloud platforms, if that's what's been deployed, to easily bolt those organizations in, so you can get the synergy and realize the value from those acquisitions quicker and onboard it. If you're looking at your customer experience side of things, well, actually, it shouldn't make a difference where that person is who's speaking to that customer. It shouldn't make any difference at all, as long as they're visible, they can take that inquiry, they're recorded, for argument's sake, from a compliance perspective, they've got access to the systems from the CRM. It shouldn't make any difference. And that in turn will deal to a better customer experience, which should drive greater productivity, which should drive greater return. So there are different ways to answer the question. So yes, there may well be some hard bottom line savings by consolidating your existing technology estate. There are benefits around being agile from a flexibility of where you work and mergers and acquisitions. And there are benefits around offering a better customer experience, which drives ultimately stickier clients and greater retention, greater revenue. So I think from a board's perspective, the position where IT is now and where IT has evolved from the cloud platforms, and the choice and how cloud technology has moved to an established, mature marketplace, I think organizations now have so much choice of what they do with their tech that it shouldn't be an inhibitor. It shouldn't slow down. In fact, it's now the next level, really, where it's not a case of how it's deployed. It's a case of which bits do we deploy to actually enhance our business and to enable us to compete and differentiate. And I think that's sort of the smart approach now that tech gives.
It's really interesting, is it? It's a whole organization approach, whereas perhaps IT used to be the premise of the boffins that sat downstairs. It really is now everybody needs to be involved in making those decisions, because it does impact every part of the organization. If you had to give one simple single bit of advice to somebody who's considering this sort of project or creating a truly hybrid working environment, what would that be? Where would you suggest they start? What's the one thing they need to bear in mind?
I would say, regarding the hybrid working strategy, is how do your customers want to engage with you? And then from that should then drive away how your people work and what technology you need to join those two together. So you've got your customers on one side and your hybrid working on the your users on the other. And the hybrid working strategy should be based on how I can match these two people together in a way that doesn't make any difference what's going on, whether or not we don't have any fuel in a petrol pump, be it that we've hit a lockdown. It should not make a difference on how that customer experience integrates. So it's important. How does your customer want to engage with you? And then let's look at how we match your staff, your valued assets with your customers.
That's brilliant. Once again, you've summarized, as a marketing person, I'll have no objection to saying put the customers first, but you've summarized your philosophy brilliantly, that it's about the people first and the processes, and then letting the technology support them.
Absolutely. Technology is a massive enabler, and that's the way it's shifted. IT teams now are shifting to enablers. They are enabling the business to achieve push that to that next stage. And that's why I love what we do, and I'm very passionate about it.
You can tell the enthusiasm and the knowledge really shows. So how do people get in touch with you, Rich, if they want to talk through? How do what do your potential customers or people to do? Is it chat over a coffee with the ideas, or do you go and do an audit of the business? How do people start their engagement with you and Trigpoint Consulting?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing is, talk to me. Absolutely. Well, great to meet people face to face over a coffee. But typically, what we'd look to do is understand more about what you're trying to achieve, and then you sort of move to having a sort of a free of charge audit and assessment of what's going on. Now we can be contacted. My email address is richard.betts@trigpointconsulting.co.uk. I'm also available on LinkedIn, so reach out to me there. And we're on hand to help out, and anything we can do would be great to hear from you, even if it's just for a coffee.
That's brilliant. You can never say no to a coffee, or perhaps something slightly stronger. Rich,
I'll second that one.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining the Sussex Collaborative. And of course, all of our contact details are available on our website. Thank you for joining us today. We look forward to presenting another bite-sized contribution to you soon.